Hi, I'm Tim from Tower Systems. I've got Justin with me today, and today we're going to talk bike shops. And we'll do a bit of a run through on how the software works. But I guess, you know what, let's start with a question, Justin.
Yeah,
Putting you on the spot a little bit here.
question without notice, no doubt.
Standard. Look, what makes good bike shop point of sale software?
Look, ultimately, I think it just comes down to, functionality, and functionality, suited to that particular industry. I mentioned functionality like, workshop management, serial number tracking, and I guess the added bonus of that functionality we offer is just it's all in-house. So there's no third-party software that you're using to manage those things, and yeah, I think that's what it comes down to.
That's a really good point. I mean, we've certainly got a lot of integrations, but there's also products out there that are absolutely about, all of the add-on applications, and that, from a cost perspective, can start to blow out pretty massively. Um,
Absolutely.
and the other thing I'd add to that is when it comes to FPOS, FPOS is one we've kind of taken the other approach. We integrate with a whole lot of providers, but we don't enforce anyone, and we certainly don't pressure anyone into using our own.
Yeah.
And that means, from a bike shop's perspective, they can negotiate their own rates rather than being locked into something that may not be the best thing for their business.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
Look, further to that, I would say another thing that makes good software or makes a good partner in the software space is the support that comes with it. Having 24/7 support, all of our AI support tools and things like that is also a huge driver.
Yeah.
Um,
It's something that seems so minor, but just, being able to get a response within an hour or two, not waiting 24 hours because you're waiting from, overseas or something like that is massive as well.
yeah, yeah. But look, let's talk about some of the tools. So, you mentioned repairs and jobs. Absolutely, I think that's a really important one. I'll share my screen here. You should be able to see that now.
Yep.
Yeah, so you mentioned repairs and jobs. So absolutely, that's all managed within our software. We've also got facilities for quoting and invoicing. So as customers come in, if they want to quote on a bike with a, specific configuration, size, color, and all of that kind of stuff, you can build a quote. You can set things like estimated collection dates, even do picking slips. So if it's a larger order, it'll generate picking slips for it. Um, what else you got for me, Justin, in terms of functionality?
Well, another thing I mentioned at the top is the serial number tracking. So,
Yeah.
managing a serial number from all the way from arriving the stock to obviously doing the sale and exactly what customer purchased it at what time. Perfect for, warranty, claims and things like that, just so you know exactly when the customer purchased it.
Really good point. And look, one thing I've found to be really beneficial for bike shops with serial numbers is also tracking. There's two ways to track it. You can simply track it at the time of sale. So when you sell a bike, it'll prompt you to say, "Hey, what's the serial number?" But what a lot of bike shops are doing now is tracking it from arrival to sale. So if I want to sell this particular bike, now normally you'd scan its barcode, but I've just got a touch screen button here so I can select it. It actually shows me that bike. This one's the Radiant Orange, extra small size. I can see all of the serial numbers here and see what date that particular bike arrived into stock. So the good thing about that is you can always make sure you're selling the oldest version of it just by selecting that serial number, and that's the one that I'm going to sell. Another thing that I think is really important in the bike shop space is just managing your data in the system. So I've got this particular bike here. I can jump into my product screen for that bike and I can see, obviously I've got my description, my pricing and whatnot, but I can also see it has variants. So this one comes in different sizes and colors. Now, we also track within our system all of the images for that product as well. So by managing that in the point of sale, we can then send that information across to your e-commerce platform, be it Shopify, Magento, and there's two others,
Big
Shopify,
commerce,
Magento, yep, BigCommerce and WooCommerce as well,
WooCommerce.
quite a popular one.
Yeah.
While I'm in the stock screen here as well, you've also got extra details. So here's where that extended information, my web description, that will all flow across to your website as well. And we touched briefly on time-saving tools. I've got this particular bike here. I can click on this description and I've got a bit of text there, but maybe I want to expand that out. Now, I could sit here for 10 minutes and try and think of what to write about this bike, or I can just cheat and I can hit generate AI, and that will use AI to write that description for me.
So
Um,
you said that would normally take you 10 minutes. You're basically telling us that it's just saved to 10 minutes. Is that
Exactly.
correct?
Look, probably more than that. Like,
Yeah.
by the time I go back and correct my spelling errors, huge time saver.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got your AI descriptions. Now with AI, we've done heaps of work in that space, haven't we, Justin?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned, it just saves you 10 minutes there, but I'm sure you're about to talk about the invoice arrival import. I've spoke about saving 10 minutes for a description, but if you're arriving an invoice of, say, 10 or 15 items, that would maybe take you, between half an hour and 45 minutes. And as you're demonstrating here, I'll send it back over to you to sort of talk through it.
Yeah, yeah. So look, I'll just select a random invoice here. I've got one here, and it's not bike products, but I've got greeting cards on it. I can select that invoice. I can view my preview over here on the left, so I can see what's on it before I load it in. And keep in mind, this is just a PDF. This isn't an Excel file or anything that a system can traditionally understand. So we're loading this from PDF files, and I've just hit analyze, and that's analyzed this file for me. And it's found the supplier, but that supplier is not even in my system. So I can say, yeah, look, add them in. That will automatically populate this information for me because it's found it on the header of this form. And you can see here it's adding all of those products in. So this particular invoice here, you can see here it's got 22 products on that. It's automatically putting that information in for me. So, again, yeah, speaking of time saving, right there in those 22 or 21 items, because one of them's freight, I would guess that's easily saved in my time to process that in. But look, a solid hour, and you mix that in with customer interruptions and things like that. You could be working on a couple of invoices all day to get them done traditionally, whereas with these tools, you can have it done in a couple of minutes.
Correct, yeah. And look, even if you do find a couple of mistakes from it, which, sometimes it might not populate in the correct field or whatever it might be, you're still saving a heap of time. Like the time it takes you to run your eye over it and maybe fix a couple of mistakes compared to, typing in descriptions for all products, cost prices, how many you received, all of that sort of info. Either way, it's going to save you a bunch of time.
Yeah, yeah. And look, one of the other really big time saving tools, and I mean, I've got to admit, this isn't one I thought was going to be a really popular tool, but it's absolutely proving to be. And that's the stock item blog post tool. So, if you're looking to build your presence online and have consumers find you before any of your competitors, you can write blog posts direct from the system. So I can jump in here and I can go stock item blog post. I've got mine password protected. I can then jump in and add a new one. And I'm just going to choose a product. Now, I had that Talon bike, so I'm just going to search for it and find it. So I'm just going to put a keyword Talon in, and that's going to narrow down my list here. So giant Talon, that's what I want. I've got my product there with an image. Over here on the left is what formatting and configuration it's going to use for writing my blog post. And you can edit this. So if you wanted it to be written in a particular style or format, you can simply just code it in there by using standard English. I'm just going to leave what I've got in there. I'm going to hit generate blog post. So again, on this bike, if I was doing a blog post and I was trying to load the image in and, think of the text to write and all of that sort of stuff, it'd take me quite a bit of time. Whereas I've hit generate blog post and it's written this for me and done a great job of it. Um,
Mm,
you can then do things like schedule these. So, if once a week you want to jump in and write all your blog posts, you could do this on a Monday morning, set 10 blog posts to go out over the next, week or two, and your job's done in, 20 minutes rather than, sitting there for a full day trying to think of that.
yeah, yeah, really good point. I had a customer last week tell me they crack a beer open at 5 p.m. on a Sunday. Literally takes them 15 minutes to schedule in that following week's worth of blog posts, and yeah, it's done. Done for
Sounds
next
like my
week.
kind of way of writing blog
That's
posts.
exactly why I told you that story.
So yeah, look, I mean, look, it's just a small snippet of some of the functionality that's in the system. Is there anything else you think we should touch on today, Justin, in terms of functionality and features?
No, look, as you said, it is a small snippet. The reason why we, I guess, emphasize the AI stuff is, we do get a lot of people that are using other systems, basically say that they've never seen this before. So I guess that's a reason why we emphasized it. I'm not saying other systems do or don't do it, but it's certainly the point of difference these days is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, Yeah, really good point. And actually, now that you mentioned that, one thing I had someone mention the other day that they really liked was the flexibility with pricing in the system as well. So you've obviously got your cost price and sell price. That's all going to be really standard with anything. We also manage a trade price and a separate website price as well. So you can use a range of those, but you can also set customer profiles to be based on those as well. So I might turn around and say, hey, Justin, you're an employee, so I'm going to give you cost price plus 5% to cover overheads on any product. So that's going to be
Mm.
your pricing structure. I might turn around and say, I've got Dave over there. He's a local club member, so I'm going to give him 15% off my sell price. I then might have some products that I import and I want to sell those wholesale. So you could set other businesses up to be trade customers. They then get that trade pricing column on those particular products.
Yeah.
So a lot of flexibility with that.
And
Um,
look, just while we're on that screen, sorry, just I
yeah,
see a button there that says AI pricing, just while we're talking about pricing. Another really good tool. So a couple of different things. Firstly, if you're unsure of what to, price an item for, you can click the AI pricing button, and that will give you three different price points of what people or competitors in your area, without naming the competitors, specifically. But as you can see here, we'll give you three different price points of what people in that area are selling the product for. So you can just easily click on one and that will adjust the pricing accordingly.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
really good point. And that as I was talking about the pricing structure before and those options, it got me thinking like who is our typical customer? Like I said, we have some that do wholesale pricing, some that do retail pricing. And it's an interesting question of who our typical customer is because I mean, you would know as well as I do, it varies.
mm,
Our kind of ideal customer is your owner operator business, looking to grow their business, an e-commerce presence as well. So they want to tie it together with their point of sale and they want some excellent tools to help them drive their business, which, like I said, we've really only scratched the surface, but there's other features in the system for managing things like, loyalty for customers, managing your stock levels with reordering and things like that. I mean, we touched on integrations before, but we've got integrations with, FPOS solutions, Zero for accounting, MyOb for accounting, all of the e-commerce integrations. We've even done integrations with RAA for membership discounts and things like that. So, yeah, a huge, huge range of tools available.
mm.
Anything else you want to add today, Justin?
No, look, as I said, I think we've covered the main things. Yeah, yeah, no, I think we've covered it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, let's leave it there. The last thing I'd say, if anyone is interested, by all means reach out to us at sales@towersystems.com.au, or call us via the 1300 number on the website. We'd be more than happy to help. We've helped over 200 bike shops come across to our software. We do things like bring across your products and customers to make that transition easier. And we've got excellent resources for bringing you on board with training videos and things like that, but also a very personal service to bring you up to speed and, yeah, help you use the tools that you've got access to.
Yeah, nailed it. Hopefully, we speak to some of you soon.
No worries. Thanks, Justin. Talk to you
See ya.
soon.